This is the sweet sound of success with Sue Wilhite, Profit Attraction Master. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the sweet sound of success. This is my new platform and my new format for my weekly Facebook Lives. I'm going to be interviewing entrepreneurs on their hero's journey and sharing how amazing life can be as an entrepreneur and what the interesting changes and challenges and calls to action and how that all works. And so my guest today is my soul sister, Alison DeNicola, who is an amazing deck creator. She's created 5 decks to date now, 4 of which are in print. 1 is to come, and we'll talk about those in a little bit. And she's a yoga teacher. She is a meditator. She is just one of the most amazing people. And, you know, we met at Book Expo America many years ago. I don't want to say how many years ago. And we met at her booth at US Games, where she works as a marketing rep, or as a marketing coordinator, right? Yeah.
Well, I'll say what I am.
She works for US Games. She's an important person.
Yeah.
And then we met in line for this in this incredibly long line at BEA, waiting for Giro's, and just really hit it off, really connected on a soul level. And then years later, we met at the International New Age Trade Show when a fellow vendor had her booth crash. And Alison and I were there holding up things and trying to prop up books. And just all 3 of us really bonded that afternoon. So that was the beginning of a wonderful friendship with Alison. And, you know, for all that we've known each other for years now, and we've been roommates at conferences, and we've exchanged emails and pictures and all of this sort of stuff, I realize, Alison, how did you get started in all of this? What was your beginning of your journey?
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me, Sue. And that was a great memory. I remember that. I remember all of those things, the Greek food and the crashing booth and everything. So, and it's funny to think, go kind of wind back in time. And I think that the first kind of switch for me was back in 2003. Actually, my father passed away, and he was, he was only like 71, and it was a very quick thing. It was really, jarring for our family. We were all really close. My kids were young. And after that, I kind of went onto the intense seeking journey of like, there has to be more. There is life, there is more. And my intuition was telling me that. And a lot of it came through his passing. Like, I was having a lot of lucid dreaming, a lot of connections to him, a lot of messages, all sorts of things. And that at that point in time, I went and I took my first tarot class, first tarot reading class. And we went to the local high school, and there was a woman doing tarot, and I went to learn tarot, and I got, so into the idea of opening up my mind to this vehicle,
right.
That I felt somehow,
right?
Yeah. I mean, I felt somehow I knew it, but I was very frustrated in the beginning because I was like, I know this somewhere, but I don't know it up here.
Right.
Like my mind didn't know it. So I had to really go and like learn all the symbolism of tarot, the colors, the numerology, the major, the minor. and then practice readings, which became, what I was doing. I was practicing on anybody and everyone. Um, and any of you who have read cards for people before, that's a dangerous place to go, doing readings for everybody and anyone, because the truth comes out, and it was remarkable that I could do card readings, and within just the turn of some cards, it was like whatever was just underneath the surface popped up for people. So I was fascinated with that. I studied a lot of different things in the beginning of that tarot. Also, I did Reiki certifications, and I was kind of going around to different things, exploring. And then my one fateful day, I'll call it, it was about 2008 now, had been practicing for several years, and I had done a yoga teacher training, and I was kind of getting into this other realm of just exploring, things that I was interested in. I was looking on Craigslist. I was looking for something to do. I wanted to work. I was a stay-at-home mom. My kids were in school, and I saw a job for
Very
U.S. Game
creative
Systems.
kids, by the way. I just
Yes,
want to say
very
that
creative.
Alison has definitely shared some amazing creative genes in her kids, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. So, so I answered a job ad for U.S. Game Systems that was in Stamford. I remembered on the bottom of my tarot deck that it said, published by U.S. Game Systems, Stamford, Connecticut. And here was a job, part-time sales job for Stamford, for U.S. Games. So I applied for the job, went down there, interviewed, got the job, no problem. And, was off like a shot. Kind of immediately successful, because they didn't really have anybody that was, they had some salespeople, but they weren't really into the product. I was so enamored. And the first day I walked in, and there were just racks, the warehouse filled with every tarot deck and every inspiration deck. And it was like, a kid in a candy store. So I was really, really enamored with that world, and with my boss, who I'm still enamored with. And that was kind of like the beginning for me, that little entry of the tarot into U.S. Games. So that's really how it all started.
Well, and there was kind of your
Very
call to action too. Was
absolutely.
Here we go. Not only are you learning it on kind of an intellectual level, but you're learning it on a production level, and what works and what doesn't for people, right?
I was learning it on every level. And in fact, so at that time, the entire tarot collection of Stuart Kaplan's, which was the largest tarot collection in the world, was in our offices. And so I would go home at night, and I would be dreaming like esoteric. It was like I was just absorbing the information. I wasn't reading it or touching it or looking at it. It was like just by being there, I was like kind of absorbing, reabsorbing. And somehow I started to like understand or remember things that my thought is I started to remember things that I already knew on a soul level. But I started to learn a lot. And so I worked there for about a year and a half. And then my husband went to open his own business, and he said, "I need your help. I can't do it by myself." So I left, and they didn't really want me to go, but it was a nice parting. They were always like, if you need anything, we want you back or whatever. And then once my husband got settled, I ran into Lynn, who's our director of PR publicity. She's our main editor. I ran into her in the supermarket one day, and she was like, "Oh, we really miss you." And I go, "I'm free. I kind of have a lot of time." And so the next week they called me, and I was back again. This time I was in a different capacity. So I wasn't selling for them per se. I was managing the salespeople. So he hired me back. And I have been back there now for 10 years. And I'm now the national sales and marketing manager there. So I'm in charge of all the outside sales groups, as well as marketing efforts. And then I'm kind of a little bit of the face of U.S. Games. So I go out and do trainings and do workshops and things on their behalf. So I get to do. So that's one whole side of of there was a call to action, and so there was this development in my professional life, which has enhanced all the other parts of my life.
Right, right.
Yep.
And so you're also a deck creator. I mean, you kind of had it in, but I know how these things work. Just because you work there doesn't mean they're going
Yep.
to
Hmm.
automatically approve you, right? Because they
Yep.
want to be
That's
able
true.
to have quality go out. US Games is very attached to the quality of the stuff that goes out. They don't want to put out schlock. I can't imagine Stuart wanting to put out schlock. So,
Yeah.
and I can safely say that none of Allison's decks are schlock. They're
Thank you.
amazing. She has
Glad
partnered
you
with
think
some
that.
amazing artists and come up with some really stunning decks. So why don't you show them off, Allison? What
I
did
will. I will. And I don't, unfortunately, I don't have all of them here with me at home, but so the first card deck that I did was
the
this one, Mudras for Awakening the Energy Body. And that was really the kind of light bulb moment for me. So, and I'll just tell you a little bit about that and then I'll show you the others. So I was in my office and I had been doing a lot of yoga teaching, a lot of different trainings, doing personal trainings, being out there in the world. And so I was really involved in kind of the world of yoga. And we were distributing it was a classic yoga deck, mudra deck by Gertrude Hershey, which has been around for like 25 years. And it's published in Germany. And one of our distributors said, the publisher in Germany who does it, we're the distributor, said, we're not gonna print this anymore. And so, yeah, so somebody came in to me. I don't know if it was Stuart or somebody said, "What do you want to write a mudra deck?" It was like, in the cartoons when the little light bulb thing goes off, and you're
right?
like, I was like, yes, I would like to do that.
So another
I was really
call
familiar.
to
I was
action.
familiar with the topic. Yeah, that was a call to action, and it was just like synchronistic. Like this was happening, and I said, yes, I do. And so it happened really quickly. And so they said, why don't you come up with a outline or concept how you would want to do it? And then I found Sabina online who had already painted several paintings of featured mudras, and I reached out to her to say, would you be interested in working on this project with me? And she was totally on board, and so we got ourselves together and made the proposal. And as far as US Games goes, yes, it's not just because you're there does it mean you're just gonna get whatever. Everyone has to kind of approve. We have a creative committee, so it went out to the creative committee, and they were all like, yeah, let's do it. Let's see how this goes. So it was amazing. This card deck has just been an amazing gift to my life. It's
Well, it's so
so
beautiful.
it's really beautiful. It's really vibrant.
It's
It
got
was
heart.
like there's really nothing else like it. I I had to really dig deep because I was feeling so resistant to coming out and doing the writing. It was really hard for me to get started. I had a beautiful outline. I had this great partner. This is part of the hero's journey. All of a sudden, you face the resistance, right? You face the
Right, the
wall.
challenges.
What is that thing that makes you stop? We've all been there, right? We've all been there. There was a lot of challenge, and the challenges were internal, because when you start a creative project, this one especially, I can look back to it, when you start a creative project, all of your insecurities, all of your inner feelings, all sorts of things that are unresolved are going to show themselves to you, which happened to me on writing this deck. I had a lot of, I mean, I was doing everything I could to avoid sitting down and doing the writing. So
Toilets
the
with a
divine
toothbrush.
stepped in. Yeah. So the divine stepped in. The divine stepped and said, I said, okay, I'm going to devote Mondays are going to be my writing day, and I'm just going to write on Monday. That's what I'm going to do. And then it snowed every Monday for 10 weeks.
You're
The
going to write
universe
on Monday.
conspired.
You're not going
The
anywhere.
universe conspired. You are not going anywhere. And so I was like, okay, here I am. And once I got into that rhythm of being like, this is my day, my writing day, it's Monday, I'm going to start, finding my own way to do it. For me, it's like really putting on instrumental kind of all different kinds of instrumental music so I could kind of go in the zone, finding my place. I did find my place by the window, looking out into nature with all of my resource material. And I started to write. And yeah, and it was a huge like woo upheaval. And I did have to kind of mine through some of that stuff, but I got to like a halfway point with it, and I could see now the other side. I was like, wow, I'm at the halfway point. And so, then I could go back, finish, and then go back and refine, I like to do a lot of my own editing and rewriting, which I did. Yeah, so that was very very, very intense. And it was, I would say, for me, that first deck really was a turning point. It really was a turning point. There was no turning back. I was like, I missed the writing when the period was done. So each of the card decks that I've written, so far I have 5 that are in print. The newest one I don't have with me, and then 2 more that I'm working. 1 more that's in the edit line right now, which will be coming hopefully by the end of this year, and then 2 more that I'm working on right now. 2 brand new projects. So it's there's a period of time that you have to devote when you are doing creative work. You can't be busy in your mind, with everything. You have to carve out the time, because that creative action, whether you feel like you channel it or you're internally creating it, or however you want to see it, needs space.
Right.
You need space. You have to have freedom.
Stephen Pressfield calls that invoking the muse. And you have to create the space for the muse to come in, for the inspiration, which it's one of my favorite words. It literally means breathed upon by the gods. For the inspiration for that to come in. You can't be, oh, I've got to, pick up the kids. Oh, I've got to clean the toilets. Oh, I've got to feed the cats. I've got to walk the dog. I've got to, do this, that, and the other thing. That's not creating space for the creativity, for the muse to come in. You want to say, okay, I'm writing on Mondays. We're going to sit down. We're going to write. Boom. There we go. Invoke the muse. So yeah.
Exactly. I had to teach myself how to do that, because I was an expert at going like, I gotta just go over here for a minute and do this. So yeah, so that was in 2000, and this deck came out in 2016. So I wrote most of it from like November through February. Took about 4 months to write. There's a lot of specific there's a lot of Sanskrit words, there's a lot of specific directions in here, so it was a very intense. It wasn't as much there is creative writing, but there was a lot more specific instructional writing that I had to fact check a lot of. So so that was my first card deck. And then when it came, I was like, I gotta go out and teach this now. And then I was like, oh, I forgot about that part. So I had to kind of learn that part of how do I translate this, and how do I share this with the world. And yeah, I'm seeing it. I mean, it's only been 4 years. Yeah, it's still like it's new. People are still discovering it. And so I've been teaching. I'll be teaching this weekend. There's a World Divination World Conference that's happening. Tony Pools in England is doing it. And so I'll be doing a mudra segment on there for that. The second deck was the mudras for awakening the 5 elements. So I was very much into the 5 elements as a yoga teacher and teaching that. So this was a companion deck that and I followed up with. The next year we did that pretty quickly. We were like, we're right on a roll. Let's do it. Let's keep going. So those 2 were the mudras, and so they're still giving me a lot of joy and pleasure. I went on to do two other card decks. I don't have them. If you're familiar with the Yoga Cats, Yoga Dogs series,
Right.
which were the calendars, we did two card decks, and I did that writing to go along with them. They're fun. They're inspirational, but they're much more lighthearted and a little bit more commercial feeling. But yeah, so it was a great process for me because then I could really get into the flow of like doing my writing. And I did a lot of that writing actually at work because it was a US Games project they asked me to work on.
There you go.
And yeah, so then I kind of brought that into this was like my private time. I was doing this in
Yeah.
my world that I was doing as part of my work process. And that became comfortable too. So was starting to really accept myself as the author. That's another part I think of any challenge. And so if you have something that you're working on, right, that you want to manifest, that you want to bring to life, there's a part of you that needs to say, I embrace this. I am this now, right? Not
Um,
I'll be that next week. It's so there was that really helped me to move into this role to say, oh yes, I'm the author. And I felt one of the challenges I face, this might be relatable to some listeners, was my family. They didn't see me
right.
as that person,
Right.
right? They just saw me as
Yes.
however they
Yeah.
saw me.
How many
And so
people
I
out
had,
there
yeah,
struggle with their the folks in their lives, whether it's family or coworkers, who you are going through a transformation. You are, you know, coming out as a butterfly, and they're going, "No, I don't think of you that way." What wings where?
yeah,
And they try to keep you grounded. They think, and you're trying to fly. You're trying to
yeah.
take off.
They're trying to keep you, where they're comfortable with you. And so
Yes.
as you start to open up and as things start to change, I get it. And with compassion, it's like, yeah, when people see you changing, it's like, oh, no, I'm going to have to change. Right.
Right. It's
that's
very
what,
threatening.
that's, it is threatening. And so that was an interesting thing. Not my immediate group here. My husband and my kids were always so supportive. But I found that, my siblings, even up to a year ago, my brother said to me one day, we were all had a get together, and he said to me, "What do you do?" And I was like, I thought, is this crazy? This guy is asking me what he has no idea. He doesn't even know what I'm doing. Which it wasn't so much that I was insulted, like he didn't know what I was doing. I just was incredulous. Like, you have absolutely no idea what I'm up to. That's so bizarre. But so you might find people in your life are like that. They're
Right.
about themselves. They're not thinking about what you're up to. Yeah, so get comfortable with. I think the part of the intention for me was the visioning of who I wanted to become, and then starting to embody that. Like, I am that now. That was important for me. So yeah, I did some good work on that. Uh, I did a lot of energy healing trainings, all sorts of different kinds of shamanic trainings. I, had a mentor for a long time who was very much into Native American spiritualism and medicine and feathers and things like that. So I was kind of had that part of me that was not reflected in this yoga life. I had these four yoga decks, these two and the dog and cat, but I had this whole other side of interest that was really about earth-based spirituality, and the angels too. I had a big angel connection. So I had another one of those moments, was like, ooh, lightning bolt moment, with Lynn. I'll give Lynn credit for this one. She said to me, you should do a feather deck. And so I was like, you're right. I should, because I had been really working with feathers and doing feather healing and doing all sorts of different kinds of healing modality with feathers. And so I set out to find my feather artist to start before I pitched the idea. And I did right away. Found David Shearer, who's this amazing watercolor artist. These are some of the
Those are
cards.
some of the most beautiful cards.
Yeah, the
It's just really
feathers are
coming
just
across on
so
camera.
amazing.
They're just so beautiful and delicate and evocative of a feather. That
Yeah.
sort of strength that a feather has, while soft, and they're gorgeous. They're beautiful.
Yeah, so I found David, and he had already been painting lots of birds and feathers and things. He had no idea what I was up to. He was just like, "Yeah, I'd be interested in working on this project with you." And so the Defined Feather Messenger was created, and actually Nora, who's our art director, did the box, which I think is so beautiful, and uh, you know, just speaks to a lot of people. So I wind back to when my father passed, and I was walking every day. That was kind of my soul soothing thing, and I was finding feathers like crazy. And I had one summer where I found about 50 or 60 hawk feathers that summer. I mean, like, that amount of hawk is really unusual. And the birds of prey, are, you can't buy them. You can keep them if you find them. So I was very inspired. I have a huge collection of feathers, huge. I have many, many feathers. So I worked with David, and at that time I was getting certified in a practice called integrated energy therapy, which is a angelic vibration healing, and it has various levels. And so I've done the master training in that with the principal, the gentleman who actually channeled that whole body of work. And so these cards are imprinted with those symbols, that sacred geometry from the angels. So that my intention was to, uh, the idea of finding feathers as a connection to spirit is really present for so many people. We see a feather,
Oh,
and
it's been around for centuries.
yeah.
That
So that,
feathers, divine messengers, the
yeah,
birds as divine messengers, and their feathers as being symbolic of that.
yeah. So this was really like that. Now I was really getting into kind of the heart of things for myself. This deck became like another little turning point, because now this felt very personal. This topic especially felt really personal to me. It was really connected to these feathers that I love, the bird kingdom, and the angels, and the idea that we are always connected, and we just need to look outside for signs. Just like finding a feather will give us that inspiration, or give us that instant message, or maybe, as you see here in Connecticut, we have a lot of red-tailed hawks. So if you're thinking about something, very often you're outside walking, the hawk will be like a confirmation, right? If you see the hawk flying, you're like, it's like a yes. And so I kind of, wove a lot of that in, plus, little bits of folklore and different connections to the birds that are just interesting for people, like what their seasonal connection is, what their color connection is, what their symbolism is. The birds as medicine, the feathers as messengers that hold specific vibration. And so that's which I'm still always enjoying, always playing around with this. So there's 44 cards in this, 44 different feathers in this card deck. And yeah, and I'm teaching that online, actually, for Body, Mind, and Soul in Houston, Texas, coming up.
Oh,
So I've
cool.
been doing workshops, yeah, and stuff based on that card deck. That's a whole, more of an energy practice, more of a meditative
Right.
type of practice. Yeah.
Wow.
And yeah.
Just so creative. I mean, it's like you you opened the door and all of this
Yep.
creative,
And it's
wonderful
gushing
energy
out.
came through. Yeah. Yeah. You uncovered the well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah, so it's been great. And the thing I think is that I can impart about it is that each of these things has made me kind of push my comfort zone each time. So where, the mudras, physically had to go out and teach about it because people wanted to learn. Tell me more. Why is this why why is this good for me to use in my life? And there's a lot of practical aspects. And then, the feathers really is about like, wow, you can really connect to spirit and really notice things that are happening outside. Just pause and watch and listen. This is a good time right now with what we're going through
Right.
to do those practices. So I have a new deck that's coming, Nature and Soul Yoga Wisdom, which is based on animal totems and yoga blended together. So this kind of like, full circle, it's kind of come around.
Yeah.
Just behind that is a really amazing chakra deck that I wrote with beautiful artist, Dira Lawrence, who's up in Portland, Oregon. And she's a visionary artist, very much in that kind of Kyle Gray. I don't want to take
Uh,
away from her, but that kind of
yeah.
feeling. So that's coming, and then I have two new projects that I'm working on right now, which are one with Sabina from the Mudras. So we're working on something new together. Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah. Boy, you're just,
Yeah,
once you opened it, it just keeps going, keeps
yeah, it
going,
just
keeps
keeps
going.
just keep rolling. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Wonderful. So I just have two more questions. One is, you talked about challenges and you talked about one of the challenges being, friends and family, the folks in your life. But
mhm.
there's got to be people who supported you, your allies. And that's one of the things that I think entrepreneurs tend to discount. They see the folks who are in their face and trying to, get in their way. But we as entrepreneurs have this tendency to go, no, I can do it myself. I don't need any help. I can do it all. And in truth, we actually need allies. We need people who can, give us a hand or give us a boost or, put us on the sled and push us down the hill and,
Yeah.
get the momentum. So who are some of your allies?
Well, I would have to say, through work, I mean, that whole crew was my allies because they were, even though maybe I had to do some convincing or, I had to kind of show myself, improve myself in terms of my writing abilities and stuff. Um, there was never a time that any person there was, kind of didn't fully believe in what I was doing. Like everyone there was really, but it's a really creative group of people. So they're already in that mindset. My children, I'm going to say, husband, my children, my kids were like, "Yeah, ma, go, ma!" Like, if I felt like I conquered a hurdle or something that was really pushing me and making me uncomfortable, and then I kind of pushed through it, they would be the people I would go to say, "Hey, you know what happened today? Like, I got this, this thing happened, and I pushed through this thing that I was feeling resistance at." So, um, don't discount the people in your life that maybe you just like my kids, like, oh yeah, my kids love me and they accept me, but they were really great champions for keeping me feeling like, oh, you know what, these guys are really on my side. Good friends, you know what I mean? There's people in your life, whoever is in your life that rejoices at your successes, and we need to seek those people out. And sometimes, old habits will keep us in these old relationships where the people, like we said before, might start to feel threatened. If you change, they're going to have to change. Take yourself out of that as much as you can. Put yourself with the people who want to see you succeed, or are happy for you, or that, like, you can really talk to and be yourself, and bounce your ideas off of, because it's silly to think that you are going to go out and do everything all by yourself. There needs to be this kind of like fluid thing where you get input, and then you can, change your mind, and you don't have to be like, well, this is the way it's going to be. The more flexible you can be, the more opportunity you'll have, right? And
Right.
then you can just say, oh, you know what, you're right, thank you for pointing that out to me, or maybe I could do this a little bit better, or what do you think about this? So I had a great support network. And then I did have, let me tell you, there's plenty of people that want to bring you down, right? So, I mean, there have been people who, have, said things or, tried to diminish. And so there is a necessity to become like the turtle, or the porcupine or whoever you want to pick that has a good, filter and boundaries. Go into your shell when you need to, put your armor on, put your spokes out. Don't let people come into that place if they're not, in your highest and best good.
Right.
And that's just working on your boundaries to
Yeah.
say,
Well,
thanks, thanks, but no thanks.
yeah. Well, my favorite phrase is "Thank you for sharing."
Yeah.
And you can say that with a very genuine, wow, thank you so much for telling me that. I really appreciate that is what's going on your mind. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And then move on and move
Yeah.
on and move out of there. So, yeah, so really surrounding yourself as much as you can with people that believe in you, or even if they don't know exactly what you're doing, want to support you and want to see you succeed. I think
Yes.
not everybody is going to understand why you're doing what you're doing. Like, not everybody knew what I was doing. I would be talking about things, kind of esoteric things or like intuitive things that would be coming into my mind. And, I could tell my family and they'd be like, okay, but they believed in me as,
Right.
being able to interpret that and bring it out into the world. And the last thing I think is just to start to, celebrate your small victories, whatever they are. It
Right.
could just be you said it out loud. I'm going to do this. Or you put it down on paper. This is my intention. I set an intention back several years ago. I decided I wanted to be a bigger presenter. I wanted to go out in the world and I wanted to present at Kerpalo. That was my intention. And I can tell you that the most unbelievably synchronistic things happened.
Right.
That's a whole other story.
That's another life
That
story.
each
Yes.
piece and those pieces all had these incredible challenges too to them that challenged my ego and who I thought I was and all different kinds of things that I had to push through and work through. And a year and 2 months later, I got a contract to go and teach my first program there. A year and 2 months. That was a pretty short manifesting time
That's
period.
good job.
That was a good job, right? I had to do a lot. I had to do a lot of personal work to get through that, to get to the other side of that intention. So if you have something that you really is your heart's desire and you're dreaming about, know that that's the beginning.
Right.
That's just the beginning, and be willing to open your heart and get out there and do it. So,
Yeah. And be who that is.
and be who that is,
It's not be
and
who
start to,
that will be. It's
yeah,
like be who
yeah,
that is. It's
who
it's
that
the
is
I
now.
am
Yeah,
thing coming
I
through.
am. Yeah, I am. Yeah, I
Cool.
am.
So the next question, the last question I have for you, Alison, is how would people get in touch with you? And I'm going to put this in the comments. I'm going to put this in the description as well. But how would people get a hold of you if they want to get some of your divine mudra yoga dogs energy?
Okay, perfect. Yes, lots of ways to get in touch with me. So you could go to my website, which is www.alisondenicola.com. So that's pretty
That's
easy.
pretty easy.
Just my name. You can Facebook friend me. I'm on Facebook under Alison DeNicola. Just send me a friend request. You can go to the Mudras for Awakening the Energy Body page. That's a page that for mudras. It's a pretty big page of people involved in that. I post mudra things and updates and stuff on there. You can send me a message through that. You can send me a direct message on Instagram, Alison DeNicola on Instagram. So it's all straightforward. It's just my name, nothing too much else. And I answer all of my messages all the time. So no worries, reach out to me. I'm doing a lot of online classes these days, Zoom classes, teaching yoga, weekly meditation, restorative yoga, those kind of things. So I have my yoga peeps here in Connecticut that are we've been together for a long time, so we're doing a lot of that. And then I'm teaching a lot of special classes. One about, like I said, Divine Feather is going to be with
Right.
Body, Mind, and Soul in Houston, and I'm leading a retreat to Peru next year.
Woo!
And that is, of course, dependent on world things settling down. But I have the highest hopes that by next April we'll be absolutely on the other side, and it'll be a trip to the Sacred Valley and Machu Picchu,
Woo!
and lots of
I'll manifest for
different
that.
things kind of wrapped up in that. Yeah, it's going to be amazing. I love it. The mother energy there is incredible. It's a beautiful, beautiful place to go to connect to nature, to really open up your intuition, spirituality. We'll be doing a lot of different kinds of things there, intuitive development, and all sorts of guided pieces to, awaken your inner light. That's the
Nice.
theme of the retreat. So yeah, reach out.
Wonderful.
Happy to hear from everybody.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, Alison. Bless you. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Sue.
I
Thank you.
love
Thank
you
you.
dearly. You know
Yep.
that. I'm just so delighted that Divine put us together and then said, "No, really,
Yeah.
you guys
Get back together
need-"
over and over and over, right? I know.
We finally
It
got
kept
it.
happening that way. Isn't that
Right,
great?
right.
Love it. Thank you for having me on. And I'll look forward to, seeing you in person soon.
Yes, yes, please.
Hoping
Absolutely.
so.
Bless you.
All
And
right.
thank you, all of the folks, for watching and listening. And please do reach out to Alison and enjoy her version of the sweet sound of success. Thank you.
Namaste.
Hello, everyone. This is Sue Wilhite, the Profit Attraction Master and creator of the Profit Attraction Formula. Align to profit, permission to profit, and connect to profit. You can learn more about the Profit Attraction Formula at profitattractionformula.com.